guys. Welcome to the second episode of Heralds of the MCU. I'm your host, Maria. I am here with the lovely Manira
Hey.
and Eric.
Hello.
So, we are going to jump right in. Episode 3 of WandaVision had a whole lot to unpack. But before I start kind of getting into my nitty gritty, Eric, Manira, was there any overarching theme that like critically stuck out to you guys with this week's episode?
Babies.
Um, her technology is getting better, as in her magic and her being able to warp her reality is catching up with the times. Before it was like rewinding a CVR, VCR. Now it's like her cutting and pasting. Her editing is getting better, I guess, of her world, if that makes sense. So I
Oh,
like
I
that.
think yeah, I would say I think that makes perfect sense. And you see it from I think really the very beginning of this episode. You know, as everyone knows from episode 2, we find out at the end she is pregnant, and we start this episode going right just full swing into the pregnancy. And to your point about like the editing of her reality, like all of this seems very strange to Vision, who, knows enough to know that you don't get pregnant and you're not 4 months in a matter of minutes.
Mm-mm.
But yet and still, that's exactly what's happening in this episode. So, did you guys have any thoughts specifically around like those first couple of sequences in this episode surrounding the pregnancy, obviously, before we get into the real meat and potatoes of it?
I mean, it's obviously the Brady Bunch. Mix a little bit of Mork and Mindy in there, but their heavy influence is the Brady Bunch because the house looks just like it as well.
See,
Only it seems like it's backwards.
I thought it was the Brady Bunch with a little bit of the Partridge Family mixed in there as
The
well.
theme song is the Partridge Family. The house is the Brady Bunch.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, to me, it feels like Wanda is doing this, and the creation of vision that she has is because Vision is smart, is trying to figure out what's going on, but she doesn't want him to, because if he does, then he's going to figure out that she's doing it. So while they're talking to the doctor's like, "Oh, so you're only like a few months," and Vision's like, "No." And like Wanda grabs his leg, like, Just go along with it. It's fine. Don't worry about it." And then when he's asking the questions of, usually how does this go? Because
Hmm.
it's not going the way that it usually does. Like he's trying to get confirmation that this is not normally how it goes. And Wanda's just basically like trying to wave it away, because if he thinks too hard, he'll put it together for
Hmm.
us, you know? So I like that. I like that they aren't on the same page, even though we know like this can't be Vision, because Vision's dead. We know he's
Right.
dead. So even the vision that she's made is smart enough to figure out something's going on. So I do like that.
Yeah, I find that like I think it's interesting when you're dealing with a character with, an omega level mutant like she is that can completely manipulate reality. So by default, that means that the consciousness that Vision has is a consciousness that she created.
Hmm.
And in doing that, he still has enough of his own consciousness that you can see him. Um, and I think we've seen it almost in every episode of the
Hmm.
3 episodes at this point. We saw it multiple times in this episode, though,
Hmm.
where he knows something's not right. And as
Hmm.
to your point, as soon as she catches it, she's either trying to find a way to manipulate him to just go along with it, as with the
Hmm.
doctor, or just straight up rewinding,
Right.
or and changing the outcome or changing the narrative or whatever that interaction is.
Yeah.
So, Eric, what do you think?
No, I mean, you guys pretty much nailed it already. Yeah, she's updating, and it seems like it's becoming more of a not so much a thought, but like a quick a reflex of hers, where something doesn't go the way she wants. It's, you know, she doesn't want this long drawn out pregnancy, so boom, it's done in a day, a couple of hours. Um, yeah, everything is kind of, and like, her, when they started to get into a deep conversation, and she edits it because she doesn't like Vision's response, meaning
Hmm.
she's controlling him even if she doesn't know it.
Yeah, she looked like in that scene, she looked very, very, very worried and almost scared. Like, with I've come so far and I'm just about to get everything that I want. I can't have it. I can't have it go away. And so like her eyes are like kind of darting and she's got like that tiny bit of shake in her head, like, no. And then it just like it just clears back up. It
Everything magically
rewinds.
works out.
Right.
hmm
Yeah.
Now, I
And
have a
yeah.
question for you, Manira, because I find it interesting that you said that she looks worried.
Hmm.
Do you think that maybe even there was a little sprinkle of annoyed in there? Because when I watched that, I felt like, yeah, she's worried, but also annoyed that it seems like there could be a hiccup in her little perfect world. Like she seems almost aggravated by it.
I wouldn't say that she seems aggravated in this scene, but she does seem aggravated. But in this scene, she kind of seems okay. So yes to your question, she does seem aggravated, but not in this scene. In this scene, she does just to me seem worried. But the question that she asked, it didn't the answer that Vision gave, because the question that she asks is, with this pregnancy being as fast as it is, I'm kind of feeling like the people of Westview might catch on. And Vision picks up on that, being an Avenger,
Mm-hmm.
context clues. Well, yes, no, you're right, because the things that happened with the hearts at that dinner and then
Mm-hmm.
the magic show,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things, in the beat, like all of these things are kind of adding up. And she kind of looked at him like, oh, no, 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 that's not the answer that I wanted you to, that's not what I wanted you
Mm-hmm.
to give me. And even the
Mm-hmm.
tone of the music changed. The tone of the music changed, like, oh, well, now we're going to be investigating. Like, we're going to actually do our jobs as
Mm-hmm.
Avengers instead of when it blips back, we get the a quintessential um sitcom kind of sitting down and talking about our feelings and don't worry, I'll be there for you and all that other stuff. That's not what Vision originally wanted, and that's not what I originally want. No, let's figure this shit out. Why is all of that stuff happening? You
Yeah,
guys are
Vision would have given her a very overly logical answer,
right.
and that's not what she wanted. She
Which
wanted the
is,
sitcom answer.
I think it's you, bitch. I think
Yeah,
it's you.
Mm-hmm. Right. It that is the only overly logical answer because it's a lot. And Eric,
Yeah.
I think I really appreciate that you brought that up about him giving an overly logical answer because
he's
I
a
feel like
robot.
Right.
right, he is a robot, and through the first 3 episodes, you know what we haven't seen? We haven't seen him being overly logical.
Yeah,
Um, he has played the role of kind of happenstance husband in these sitcoms very well, which I think would be the complete opposite of who he is. So,
Well, okay. We have and we haven't. Because
okay.
remember when he's at his job and he's trying to figure out, like, well, what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
No, no, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do we do? Even at the dinner when he's talking to his boss, thinking he's going to get an answer of what they do and what they mass produce, or what those those forms that he was filling out, like what they add up to. He's trying to figure that out. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, when he's not with Wanda, he is trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure out the world that
but you
he's
notice every time he started asking questions in the office, like something else popped up to move
right.
along the plot, so that he's not
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
continuing to ask questions like, "Oh, well, what do we do here? What about that dinner you're supposed to be
right.
having for me tonight?"
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think yes, he is, but then there's always just something that stops him
Mm-hmm.
and then gets in his way and kind of course corrects.
Yeah, and you see in the very extreme cases when there's no way around it, she literally just snaps her fingers and things are back to the version she wants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which in and of itself is just crazy to me because like I get you're grieving and you're mourning and you want this perfect life, but at the point that you have to change your loved one's responses, that's not your loved one. You know what I mean? Like how much of the fantasy is really fulfilling that need for you when you're having to constantly manipulate the one person, like manipulating the neighbors, all of those other things. That makes sense, right? Because you've created this world for you and your beloved and you want it to work. And so you got to make sure all these motherfuckers in this town are doing what you need them to do. That makes sense. But at the point that you are rewinding and changing your husband, your love, your, you know what I mean, like you're changing his responses and who he is, like I'm just curious if at any point she's going to like feel some kind of way or it's going to hit her how much she's making him not him.
Grief some motherfucker. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like so I I mean, I get it. You know, nobody is act like even the one person that you love is not as perfect as you think they are. Like
Yeah.
you know.
I think his version of her is also gaining sentience at the same time because
Mhm.
things are starting to get weird in the town. You can tell that some of the
Mhm.
people, like Agnes and the neighbor, are they're kind of breaking script, but not on purpose.
Hmm.
Okay, let's talk about that, can
Yeah, I
we?
was gonna say that's exactly where I wanted to go next. Go for it.
Okay, so Geraldine goes in and she helps Wanda. She um kind of plays the hey girl, I'm, here to tell you about my story and also like, something's happening
She
with
needs to
my
borrow a
pipes,
bucket.
right? So blah 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 blah. But also I want to tell you about my story, but I'm gonna stay longer than I should because all of a sudden you're going to need my help and I'm going to be able to help you. That to me, going to Agnes, talking to Herb, saying that Geraldine is real weird and she really shouldn't be here.
And she doesn't have a
Agnes,
home.
right. Agnes,
Mhm.
all of those things are the same thing that people could be saying about you. Geraldine could turn around and say the exact same thing about you because when you showed up in the first episode, you were doing all of those things, but you were giving Wanda the answers that she needed. You noticed Wanda didn't have wedding rings. You gave her that. You noticed that Wanda didn't have the story of how Vision and her got married and got together. You gave her that because you are the neighborhood busybody. So if she told you all of that information, you would go and circulate it around. So you would give her a story. You also were able to help her out when she needed a 5-course meal for the boss, even though you set up all of that stuff. So you are basically Geraldine because you keep saying that you have that husband. No one ever sees him. You didn't see him at that magic show, but you keep bringing him up, saying that you have a husband. Also, the only people that we know have houses are Dee Dee because we went to Dee Dee's house and Herb has that
Oh, you
bush,
mean
but that's
Dottie?
about it. Yeah, Dottie,
Yeah,
but
Yeah,
that's
Dottie.
it.
Dottie
We've
and
only been to
hers.
her house.
Well, we've seen the inside of
Who else's house?
what's
We've been to
the
the library. We've been to Herb's bushes. We've been to the
Inside Dottie's house.
yeah,
inside
yeah,
Dottie's
yeah.
house.
I'm confusing Herb and Dottie's husband. But
John.
yeah, we haven't seen the inside of Herb's
No,
house.
I mean we
We've only
haven't seen
seen
Herb's house. We've
Herb
only seen his
outside.
bushes. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
and they did that thing in the 70s, like on the Brady Bunch, where they're shooting on a soundstage, but it's meant to
Yes.
look like outside, so you can tell that the backgrounds are all like matte paintings,
Right.
which I
Mhm.
thought was good for the story, but also good for like the continuity of the time period that they're supposed to
Mhm.
be,
Mhm.
the sitcom taking place in.
Yeah.
Right. We've seen the gazebo. We have not seen your house. You came to Wanda's house to walk her to Dottie's house.
You came to
So
Wanda's house to Dot Walker
right.
when you had the issue with the food. I'm assuming Wanda called you,
Right. But
Well,
we didn't see it.
even
but we never
even
saw that.
then, even then, the neighborhood has changed.
Right.
If you didn't notice, the neighborhood and the outside of the house even changes with her updated sitcoms.
Right.
Mhm.
So like the same houses next door are not there anymore.
Right.
Mm-mm. No, it's
Wanda
completely
didn't have
different.
a husband until until you asked her what's a single girl like you doing a big old house like this. So all of the things that she's saying about Geraldine can be said for Wanda, but also can be said for you.
Mhm.
So I don't. Yeah, Geraldine is not supposed to be there. We know she's not supposed to be there because her name isn't even Geraldine. When she was fumbling with that, that was a red flag. But
Mhm.
also, why is Agnes so hell bent on throwing suspicion onto Geraldine? That's what I want to know.
Well, obviously Geraldine, even looking like at her necklace, she obviously works for Sword.
Hmm.
She's wearing
Yes.
a sword pendant as a necklace. Like obviously Agnes is some type of architect in this thing. Like she's feeding Wanda what she needs to hear. So if she suddenly starts putting in suspicions that Geraldine doesn't belong there, it's because Geraldine is there to break up something.
But was she like she helped? She was obviously there because Wanda need. She knew that Wanda was going to need help. She was staying there until Wanda could have those babies. She
Yeah,
didn't
See,
want Wanda to be
I
I
don't.
alone.
feel like something when Wanda actually has the babies, and
Mhm.
while she's having the babies and she's getting contractions and like the universe is getting very weird.
Hmm.
I feel like Geraldine maybe slipped out of her whatever magic she's got going on with the people of Westfield. That's when she starts remembering. She started questioning Wanda on like her past, and like especially when Wanda mentions that she had a brother, she had a twin, because the babies pop out and they're twins.
I don't know that Geraldine was ever part of the Wanda like
I don't think
mindset.
everyone, for
No,
the
no,
exception
I
of
don't.
Agnes, I feel like everyone is kind of pulled into it, and they're probably people that have been around Wanda for a bit.
Hmm.
So I think that there's a couple things going on here. I agree. I think that Agnes is definitely some form of an architect or like the main contributor for
Yeah,
whatever
she's
outside
instigating
forces
things.
help her. She is an
Hmm.
instigator. I feel like when you're looking like the conversation that her and Herb were having, where Herb was about to kind of tell Vision how he knew that Geraldine didn't belong
Hmm.
there, what was really going on, and she was like, no, no, no. Um, I think that the I think that there are people that I think the people that are closest to Wanda and Vision on the show were brought in the same way that Agnes was in the same organization. I'm going to just say Hydra for now, although I'm not sure that that's the case, but I think that let's say that they are the bad element, so they are the Hydra element. I think that when she took over this town, because as we saw at the end, she clearly like there is a force field over a block of space on this planet, so she took
Hmm.
over a town. I think that some of those people ended up getting enlisted by Agnes, and when Sword came on the scene, because they are seeing this fucking big ass like you know this of taking up this space. I think that they sent Geraldine in. I don't think they sent Geraldine in necessarily to help Wanda with the babies or anything. I think they sent Geraldine in to figure out what was going on and then get Wanda to stop. But to your point, when she was having the babies and things got a little weird, Geraldine was able to break out of the magic, because I think what happened was they sent her in assuming that it would just be like she could just be herself. And then when she got in there, she was affected just like everybody else by Wanda, because Wanda is still controlling everything. And so I don't believe that she showed up at the house because she knew that Wanda was going to have babies and need to help. I think she genuinely just showed up at the house, and as things progressed, she was able to break character and kind of saw what was going on. And then unfortunately made the mistake of mentioning Ultron and Wanda kicking her out.
I don't know. I don't know. Like the acting, it just wasn't. It was way too over the top for her to not have been, for her to not have known what was going on. For me.
Well, her acting as part of like in the sitcom sense
No,
was spot on for that time period. Like she's the chatty best friend. Like, girl, I need to tell you. Those sitcoms. If you had a black best friend, that best friend had to tell you.
Hmm.
I
That
don't
part seemed
know.
like Wanda's version of Geraldine.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
Like
I
no,
think that this is what
I
drives
believe you
it.
to a point. I believe what you're saying. I just don't know that I think that her magic affected Geraldine.
I
See, I
feel
think
like
it had to.
we don't know. Like, we obviously know that Geraldine is really Monica Rambeau,
Hmm.
aka Photon, Captain Marvel, all the other names. We don't know if she has powers of her own based on her
Hmm.
experience with the other Captain Marvel. So we don't know if that's why they sent her in. Maybe they sent her in thinking that like it wouldn't affect her as well.
Hmm.
But then it
And
did, because I think the expression on her face is the only reason that I'm doubling down on the idea that she went in and didn't think she would be affected. Like she
Yeah,
went
she
in
did a lot of
general
really
to
good
help.
face acting this episode.
But then she got kind of sucked into it with everybody else because literally it's as soon as Wanda says Pietro's name,
Hmm.
her face just like it was almost like when you watch like hypnosis videos and somebody is hypnotized and then they do the trigger to wake them up and it's just like
Yeah, that's
But I
exactly
didn't
what it
take
seemed
it as
like.
that. What I took it as is, oh, Wanda, you're still in there. So you still know who you are. That's what I took it as. I didn't take it as like
mm,
as Monica realized it clicked onto Monica, who Monica was. No, to me it clicked. Oh, Wanda, Scarlet Witch, the
is
Avenger, is
here,
still in
right?
there.
Yeah, because she immediately mentions you had a brother. He was killed by Ultron.
Tron, right? Because I think that she saw that little slither of a window and thought, oh, I could kind of maybe appeal
Mm-hmm.
and say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well,
Yeah, that's a
you
good
are
point.
that Avenger, then this is, who I am. These are the people that I work for. You know them, being that
Mhm.
you are an Avenger. I'm here to help you. Let At this split second, I can maybe appeal to you
Yeah, when she
with
called
the
her out on
change.
the sword logo on her pendant,
Hmm.
you can tell that she was kind of broken free from the spell, and she was
Hmm.
trying to come up with an alibi, and it didn't
Hmm.
Mhm.
work.
No,
Mhm.
no.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Also, it
no.
was a
That
nice callback to her outfit. The blue and white kind of flowy sleeves looked like her photon outfit from like the 70s. I thought that was a nice callback.
Yeah, I enjoy that whole entire scene. I enjoy when Wanda is singing the lullaby in Sokovian. I enjoy
Yeah.
then when Elizabeth Olsen is doing she is acting when
Acting.
she backed her in the fucking corner and she was like, "Who are you?"
That mama bear
Mm.
reflex
When
kicked
she
in.
didn't answer and her like eyebrow went up just a smidge, her head tilted just a little bit, and I was like, "Listen, I don't know if she can fucking fight, but my money's on her. My
Yeah.
money is on her.
Yeah, it
Get
was
out."
it was very and Eric, you just said something like you were like that mama bear instinct, and I think it was the mama bear on top of the you are not fucking up my
Yep.
perfect life.
Yep.
Hmm.
Like it was
Yep.
such a combination of emotions on her face
Mhm.
in that second.
Mhm.
I know I said it in our first episode, and I just got to come back to it. Like, I just wish we could have seen a little bit more of this Scarlet Witch in the movies because she's doing a fantastic job. Like, there was just so much emoted without words in that exchange between them
Yeah.
And not
because
to
you could
mention
even see
her
like the
power.
fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you could like legit see the fear in Monica's face
Mhm.
because it was like not only shit, I don't have an alibi, but she legitimately looked like I don't know what this bitch is about to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, when Vision comes back in, and he's like, "Oh, where'd Geraldine go?" And she's like, "Oh, she had to rush off real quick."
Well, the
Hmm.
fact that Vision changed, like he knew that Geraldine was in that house and he walked in as Vision,
Hmm.
not as humanoid Vision. He walked in as Vision. Like he was either going to stop Geraldine. Okay. So I don't feel like Vision took what they were saying about Geraldine as her being a threat.
I don't
No,
either.
I think
Yeah.
he took it as they are also privy to something not being right in this neighborhood,
Right.
and maybe
Hmm.
Geraldine might know more. So
L-
let me go in and
Right.
ask her.
Yeah, that's the way that I felt. And then when he walked in and he was as Vision, it was okay, well let's see what we can as Avengers get out of her. And then Wanda's fucking villainous. Oh, no, she had to go. She rushed right home.
Hmm.
Like the
It
fucking tone, I cannot wait for her to be a villain. I'm so excited. That was everything that I needed to see and hear and more.
because
Like
it was
I
psycho. It
it
was
was
legit
it
psycho. The
was.
way that she received, like she, because like she stared off. It like it was like there was an emptiness in her eyes when she was like, "Oh yeah, she had to go." And
Mhm.
it's like, bitch, he was just outside. Like,
Mhm. So where did she go?
right,
Right.
you know, he would have seen her if she had walked out the house.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
where did she go?
Right. Where did you send her?
Right.
Where'd you send her, Wanda?
It was also the shock that it wasn't just one baby; it was two.
Yeah. we gonna talk about their babies?
Yeah, I feel like she knew it was going to be two the whole time. I don't know if
Yeah.
she hadn't made up her mind about the names, because he was talking about what Billy,
Billy.
because at like William Shakespeare, and she wanted Tommy. And then, I guess she in her mind she made up this perfect compromise that, like, oh well, I guess I'm having two babies right after each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When she looked down and was like, I'm a twin, I was like, oh, hmm, you are a fucking twin. So of course you would have twins.
Mm-hmm.
That it really
I also like that they did that
she
that sitcom thing where, like, when people have babies and the babies come out perfectly clean.
Mhm. Clean
And
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 with the
3 months
giant
old.
head, right.
Right.
Yeah,
And 3 months old.
she's
Oof.
standing up and walking around 5 minutes later like nothing happened. Like, oh, okay, cool. I just had
Yes,
two
stomach
babies.
completely gone. Yes, stomach completely gone.
Yep.
And she looked like she was
Ah.
about to pop right before
Mhm.
she actually popped.
Mhm.
So, yeah. But here's the thing with the kids. Spoiler alert for anybody that doesn't actually know about Wanda and Vision, they do have twins. They become young Avengers later. There's a whole lot behind their existence and whether they're real or magically created or demons. I'm not going to ruin that for you. Go read some comics. You'll find out on
It's a
your own.
mix of all three, honestly.
Eric, I just said I wasn't going to ruin it for them. Let them find out.
Well, they have to find out how. Like, a
Spoiler alert.
go read House of M. Go read I forget the one where they become real boys, but it's a lot.
Real boys like fucking Pinocchio. You gotta love Marvel. You gotta love comic books. But it'll be very interesting. So we know, coming out of this episode, we know that Sword is on the scene trying to basically do something. We don't know
Yeah,
what yet, but we're
we finally get a
assuming.
glimpse of the real world.
They are
Right.
right outside the door.
Yeah.
Right. And we have to assume that they are trying to help the situation because spoiler alert, Sword is a good organization, not a bad organization. So we know that they're there. We know that they're trying to get this situation under control somehow. We still don't know what the hell the deal is with Agnes or Herb or how many of the other people in the town really do know what's going on and understand that they are actors in this Wanda production versus folks that are just kind of there. Like I don't feel like we have a solid answer on that, but we at least know that Agnes and Herb are in fact, willing. Well, I don't even think willing's right because I don't think they want to be there.
I think they have some, like, part of it. I know. I think Agnes does all overall want to be there.
Mhm.
Um, some of the other people you can easily tell don't have it because you see behind the scenes, like the thing with Dottie and her husband when she asked him, if the earrings make her look fat, and then the power goes out. That was
Mhm.
straight up sitcom. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like when they're not performing in part of the sitcom thing, they're just in stasis, not moving around because they're not moving the plot forward, like a
Yeah.
sitcom, because they're not real people, even though they are real
Mhm.
people.
Well, I
Mm.
mean, Herb's not really doing anything. Like he was cutting that fucking
Except cutting
Yeah.
cement
Well, I think
with a hedge trimmer.
part of that is like maybe he broke a little bit because clearly, he's supposed to be trimming the hinges, but he's cutting through the cement block, which you can tell is in a sitcom way not really cement. It's probably like a styrofoam fence.
Mhm.
Um, but part of that is like the joke, like, oh, you're trimming the hedges a little low, but in his face, you can see he's like, oh, thank you, Vision, but like his face is dead inside.
Right.
Hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
there's definitely still a lot of unknowns, and I think that what I'm curious to see, kind of bringing it back, how are the twins going to fit in this unknown? Are they going to grow in at an accelerated pace the way that they were conceived? How long are they going to be babies?
I
How
feel
long
like,
before we see
yeah,
them manifest powers? Like,
I feel like that all depends on how, like, if things go the timeline that they're supposed to in the next episode, it moves along another decade, they should be in like 80s, um like Family Ties type,
Mhm.
Silver Spoons, Family Ties, like
Okay.
80s sitcoms. So
mhm.
maybe by then they're like toddlers and within the next couple of days.
Well, okay. So how do we know that we have not seen their powers in this episode? How do we know that that wasn't because remember the stork that she was trying to magic away and the
Hmm.
stork was literally just flapping it like, no, I'm
Stork was like, nah,
here.
girl.
Right.
Well,
So,
I mean, based on her children's powers, one is called Speed. Vision uses super speed a lot in this episode, and the
mhm,
other is Wiccan, who basically has similar powers to Wanda, where he can manipulate reality
Mhm.
in a certain way. So
right. And I mean, she did say, "Oh, was that me? Did I do that? Because I didn't mean to." So to me, that meant, well, if you didn't mean to do it, and this whole thing is you, I wonder if that's the babies.
Well, you know what? Going down that rabbit hole, it would make sense because the two storks behaved in two very different ways. You had the one stork that kind of sped into the room and then froze perfectly to look like he was
Hmm.
part of the wall. And then you had Mr. Your magic doesn't affect me stork. I was about
Stork,
to say
yeah.
spork, but he wasn't a spork.
I thought they were the
So
same stork.
No, there were two storks.
I thought he was the same
I think
stork
it's the same
too.
stork because the stork walked in the same room.
I think it's the same stork.
Yeah, like when she jumped up, the stork got scared and ran to the room, and then they went into the room right behind it.
But then he acted because, okay, to your point,
But one
if he
stork
was
went
the same,
outside. That's what I'm saying. You remember that the back door was open and there was a stork that literally went outside. And then it was like the other stork appeared. You know, maybe y'all are right. I might need to go
I
back
think
and
it might
rewatch
be
it
just the one, but
because
yeah,
I
I'll
could
no,
have
definitely
sworn
watch
it
it
was
again.
two different storks.
no. Well, to your point, I will say it should have been two different storks because that stork was acting ridiculous because like he was walking and doing the flapping thing and then he started like chomping at Geraldine's pants like he
Because they had
wanted to
fish on
get
them.
caught. Right, but then when they went into the baby's room, to your
He
point,
wasn't trying to get
Maria,
caught.
he wasn't trying to get caught. So what the fuck? Like why did he change his interaction? It was weird to me. It should have been two storks, but it wasn't. I think it was that
I
same
think
stork
something about the
initially.
contractions were like setting off her powers because you could tell, the dishwasher and all the electronics were going off. But
Mhm.
then when she walks in the room, just like when her water breaks and the whole house starts to flood.
Which was amazing. Love
Yeah.
that. Love that.
Yeah, I think they might have been a manifestation of her powers as she's going through contractions.
I think it was the babies.
Could
I
be.
do.
Yeah, I would like to see where they go from there with Wiccan and Speed. Um hopefully next episode we see them as like toddlers at least.
At
At
least,
least,
because
yeah.
they can't be little babies. We need them to
No.
be a little bit bigger than that.
No.
And to your
Plus,
point, it seems like they're moving decades
yeah.
Hmm.
or every couple
Well,
episodes.
not to
But no,
mention like every episode, yeah, it seems to be a new decade because the original was like 50s, 60s, and then they moved like Brady Bunch is 70s. And then
right.
you'll get onto the 80s, which is obviously like Family Ties, and I'm trying to think of more like white
Oh,
sitcom. There's
there
tons
were
of
a
them, but like
ton. Yeah, you had
Who's the boss?
I'm
No,
thinking
is the
Growing
boss right?
Pains and Family Ties, stuff like
yeah,
that.
Growing Pains,
Mhm.
Family Ties. You had oh, I'm looking at the Facts of Life.
Yeah,
You
that's what I couldn't
had
think of. Facts of Life earlier.
different
Strokes.
strokes,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Silver Spoon that you already mentioned. Like you had all of these sitcoms that were kind of the same ilk
Hmm.
Mhm.
with just different, varying circumstances, rich, poor, whatever, but that time frame. So
Hopefully, when they jump into the 80s, Vision now works for a tow trucking company and they have like junk in their backyard and it's very Sanford and
Samson
Son.
and Son.
I would love
that would have
Sanford and
been
Son
that would
Vision.
have been the 70s, sir. That's
It'd be
still
so good.
technically, yeah, Sanford and Sons is technically a 70s
So
show.
that's Herb then.
Yeah.
That's why
Well,
Herb was just hanging
Herb
out with
comes
his
over and
afro
he's like,
and
"Oh, you big
chilling.
dummy!" Like, okay, I would love that.
But here's the other thing too. It's supposed to be 9 episodes total, right?
Mm.
So if it's 9 episodes total, you would think that we just saw the end of Act One and we're starting to get into Act Two.
Mhm.
Getting into Act Two, how much longer are we actually in the town of Westview as it is?
Yeah, I have a feeling we're gonna get up to maybe like 80s, 90s, and then maybe it'll break completely by the early 2000s, and the last 3 episodes will be like in reality the consequences of what she's been doing.
So you don't
Mhm.
think next episode we get a debriefing from Monica on what happened?
I think they might give us a couple minutes of that, but at the same time, they're still focusing on Wanda. So maybe in like the last 5 minutes, kind of like in this episode, the last 30 seconds, it's Wanda's pushed out of Westfield,
You
And
mean Monica?
Monica. Who did I say?
You said
It's
Wanda.
Wanda.
That's
Oh,
okay though.
yeah. Monica's pushed out of Westfield, and we'll
You.
find out Westview. Yes, where's
Yeah,
Westfield?
West, the mall
Mall.
near your job.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
what Westfield is.
yeah.
She was not pushed out of mall.
It's not.
Well, we don't know what the town of Westview actually is like.
It's not a mall, baby.
Well, if
I'm
you look
pretty
at
sure it's
the
not a
at
mall.
the poster, I mean the billboards and everything for the sign, like the slogan is like, home is what you make it.
And
So
she's making it
clearly, yeah,
home.
she's making it whatever the hell she wants. Also, I have a little bit of a theory about like the commercials.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Clearly the only brands that she knows from her past are
Hmm.
Stark and Hydra. So
Hmm.
this one, it's like a bath product, and it's like
Yeah, Hydra
Hydra
soap.
bombs, Hydra soap. Yeah, I thought it was called like Hydra bombs, like a bath bomb, but
Hmm.
No, no, yeah, it was
No.
Hydra
So.
soak.
yeah,
Yeah.
Hydra soak. And it just makes more sense now in the first episode about the Stark toaster.
Hmm.
That feels like a callback to her childhood from the
Hmm.
story that what's name meant. It's a ticking time, a tick for the toast. And he mentions that they expected the bomb to go off when it landed in their living room and killed their parents, but the
Yeah.
bomb never went off. It just had Stark's name on it.
Hmm.
So
Look at you
that's
going
what
back
she
and
knows.
watching Ultron.
Yeah, those are her past experiences with brands. It's Stark and Hydra. So I wouldn't be surprised if the next episode we see another Stark product.
I love the commercials, to be honest.
Yeah, I do like that they keep recycling the same actors.
Hmm.
Here's the thing, though. We got a call back to her brother. I find it interesting that she can acknowledge that her brother is dead, and it. I don't know if she's going to attempt to bring him back. She certainly hasn't yet.
I hope so. I would
S-
like to see him back in the show.
Is he supposed to
Sounds
be
sounds
Rhaenyra?
like Rhaenyra has looked into some casting
Dear
things.
God. So
Okay.
he's coming.
Mm. But low key, it's not the one you think.
Yeah, I heard that too. Where it's because of the multiverse, it'll be the one from X-Men,
Hmm.
Which
X-Men Quicksilver.
I love Evan Peters as Quicksilver. I want it. I saw him in the cast and I was like, no.
I would like to see them like mess around with it. Like maybe as she's going through the 90s, she's watching X-Men from that
Hmm.
time, the movies. And that might be how they bring it in,
Mm.
where, as far as the multiverse, we're
Hmm.
like, oh, mutants exist here in these movies. Why don't they exist in our world? And
Yeah.
she kind of makes mutants by accident.
Yeah. I want her to work out some of this trauma. Because
Good
she never
luck.
did. Like, you never worked out your brother's death, and then right on top of it, the supposed love of your life dies. That's
Hmm.
a lot of grieving. And I mean, yeah, this all of this makes sense to me.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a new character pop up that is something like a therapist,
Mhm.
and maybe she just comes out of nowhere, and Wanda shoots her out of there once she starts realizing you're trying to fuck with my head.
Ooh, like Darcy.
Yeah,
I would like that. I'm excited that all it seems.
live stream about WandaVision with like all the characters, because they're bringing back what's the name, Randall Park, who's played the FBI agent in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and a couple of other characters. But when I watched it, they were like, well, we can't really talk about what we're doing in the show, we just know that we're back. And I was like, well, that, like, maybe do this after the show is aired so
Yeah.
we can dig deep into this.
Yeah.
That's the other reason that I'm wondering if this whole Westview Perfect Life Act One is going to be really wrapped coming into episode 4 and episode 5. I mean, I think definitely by episode 6 we're out of we're out of this altered reality Westview, right?
Yeah.
But if they're bringing in so many people, like names that we all know, there's no way that I could see them doing it in a meaningful way that would still have us stay in Westview a lot longer.
Well, I think that's why this also makes more sense broken out over 9 episodes as opposed to like 1 2 hour movie, because it's a lot of shit going on. And I like that they're giving these characters these long form ways to express whole storylines, as opposed to, because obviously her story's not going to be as action packed as like a Captain America movie that you can throw it all together in 2 hours. No, this needs to be something that's, because a lot of it is dealt all around like trauma and powers, and
Mhm.
I like to see that a bit more expanded upon.
I don't know that I think that she's going to be leaving Westview that soon. I feel like Wanda's not going to give this up without a fight. Um
Mm.
I don't know that I see her leaving Westview without, you know,
Yeah,
a fight.
I'm very interested to see where they go from here. because it's just now like the curtain is starting to be pulled back a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I think with that, where was there anything else about this particular episode we wanted to talk about, or do we want to get into maybe some tinfoil conspiracy theories?
I'm going to talk about that doctor for a second. Like,
Let's do it.
okay, so no, I mean, I guess women have always known what sexism was, and between us, we always had that look. Because, like,
Oh,
when
you
the
mean the
doctor,
doctor basically telling her, "Oh no, you're just crazy brains because you're a woman."
right? But then when like Huey like looked at Geraldine and was like, "You were real quick headed. You could be a nurse." Wanda gave Geraldine like that knowing look that we as modern women give each other that knowing look. So I don't know. If she was supposed to be during that time, would she have given you know, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I mean, but this is why I 100% believe that Wanda knows exactly what she's doing, and she is in control generally. I think
Mhm.
that she's being pumped full of stuff to keep her going, but yeah, she knows that she is not from this time. There's
Mhm.
no question about that for me. And that didn't know before, he knew then, because that scene was like, no, this motherfucker didn't say she could be a nurse, like she couldn't
Yeah.
be a doctor. Like,
Right.
get out of here. She knew.
Yeah. I just
Yeah,
I don't know. There's so many things like I've watched this episode at least 4 times. There's just so many things. There's so many times. Yeah, 4. Sorry. It was really good. I so many things. This we got so much in this episode. Like they're like to your point, they
There
are
is.
they're pulling that fucking curtain back and
Mhm.
you miss a little, you miss a fucking lot. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I'm really happy to our listeners. Manira literally watched it before all of us. She didn't even get out of bed before she, and she messaged us like, make sure you watch it with the captions on, because it's the dialogue matters. And at first I was like, ugh, here goes Manira just being Manira. But I was like, no, 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 I'm gonna listen to her. It's butt ass early. She wouldn't have sent that message if it didn't matter. And she was right. Like, there was so much, and you could have missed, like, you couldn't blink, you couldn't look away, you had to watch everything, because everything felt, it may not be important down the road, but it certainly felt very important in this episode.
At least with the Herb and
Hmm.
Agnes conversation, even before Vision talks to them, when he's
Hmm.
talking to the doctor, you can still see the caption of what they're saying, and
Hmm.
you gotta read that. You gotta know.
I have a little bit of a theory here.
Well, we're theorying.
Um,
Go ahead.
okay, Agnes clearly is not who she says she is.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, we're getting a lot of like looks at Sword. Sword
Hmm.
is the sentient world observatory. I forget what but they're basically space shield.
Hmm.
Every time we see Sword pop up, they seem like the bad guys. I don't think it's actually Sword, or I think it is Sword, but like the big thing that sticks out of my head is the beekeeper.
Hmm.
Beekeeper, especially in Marvel Comics, when you think about the beekeeper, you think AIM. In the comics, AIM is Advanced Idea Mechanics. They're known for their big yellow suits that look like hazmat suits or beekeeper suits, and people like Deadpool and other superheroes refer to them as beekeepers. So I feel like AIM might be behind this a little bit. Like maybe Agnes works for AIM, and she's making, every time
Mm.
Sword pops in to try and help her, she's making AIM people look like Sword, which is why she would like Monica, aka Geraldine, clearly doesn't know what she's doing. She's not there. She wouldn't have put together that outfit herself. She wouldn't have put a Sword emblem right on her outfit, when we know that Wanda keeps seeing these icons of Sword pop up, like on the helicopter and the beekeeper
Mhm.
suit. I think she's trying to make her think that are the bad guys, but in reality, it's actually someone like AIM.
Please don't make me go back and watch Iron Man 3.
Go for it. I enjoy
Mm.
parts of Iron Man 3, but also at the same time, I feel like AIM might have been sold off to someone else. Plus, we know a lot of the stuff from the Mandarin is coming back
Yeah.
for Shang-Chi.
Oh,
I
really?
want
It's
to do a
levels. Yeah, the
rewatch.
Mandarin's coming
Yeah.
back for Shang-Chi. The real Mandarin, not Ben Kingsley.
I don't
Mm.
want to do a
Levels.
rewatch.
Levels.
But I like Ben Kingsley's
I actually like
Mandarin.
Iron Man
You
3. I
can
like
tell.
I like the Mandarin swap.
Hmm.
I
Yeah, I
didn't.
think it's a lot better than people ever gave it credit for. Everybody shits on it. I don't think it was that bad.
No, it's okay. The only problem is that it didn't really move along the Marvel universe. It was
It
very much a Tony Stark story,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
I don't think at that point we needed any more Tony Stark stories. Like we get Iron Man 1, that's really all we need.
Mhm.
Iron Man 2 served to bring us like more into the Avengers and Black Widow and stuff like that. And then Iron Man 3 was like, no, it's back to Tony. And a little bit of Rhodey.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my big like, you know, tinfoil
No,
hat
listen,
off
I
theory.
appreciate it because I was so focused on Hydra, I didn't even think about AIM.
Hmm.
So I think that fits the narrative a little better, actually.
Yeah, because why else would she be fighting Sword? Every time she sees the Sword logo pop up off, and then, because it was the Sword logo that set her off about Geraldine.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Well, that and her asking about bringing up Ultron.
Yeah.
Unless, unless it's a situation that before she took over Westview, she had been introduced to Sword after the
Mhm.
events of Avengers Endgame, and so
Mhm.
she knows that they want to take her back to the real world, and she's like, "No, fuck that. I live here now."
Well, yeah, I was watching some of the stuff from the creative team behind WandaVision. They mentioned that this basically takes place right after Endgame.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm thinking if it takes place right after Endgame, there had to have been a time for her to be introduced to Sword. Because
Mhm.
I mean, fucking Thanos, right? Um,
Well, I feel like Sword was probably made not long after the events of like
right.
Endgame and whatnot, because now you're getting a lot more space characters. You get
Hmm.
like they probably
And the
existed.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man, and they probably existed right after the original Captain Marvel, because someone had to notice those big ass Kree ships popping up in the space, and then maybe they were like, we need to put this together to keep an eye on the space from alien invaders,
Are we
you know,
gonna? Are we
the
doing theories?
Chitauri and all that. Say what?
Are we doing theories?
Yeah. No,
That's
that's
this is
where we're
theory
at.
time. Pop that tinfoil hat off.
I think Monica's a scroll.
What?
Could
I
be.
do.
Okay, now all right.
Yeah, because I feel like that's where Nick Fury, Nick Fury is obviously out in space at the end of
Mhm.
Captain
Right.
Marvel. Um, Maybe. How
She
long
has.
has
Okay.
Nick Fury
I
been out
need to
there?
understand why you think Monica's a scroll. That wouldn't have even crossed my mind.
I think Monica is a scroll because she has a scroll best friend, as we know. That
Mhm.
little Talus's
Talos.
Talus's daughter.
Hmm.
They were very close. I have to go back and double check because when they were sitting on the steps, she said, "I love your eyes. Don't change your eyes." And then they made a point when Monica landed on the ground. We kind of her eyes, but I didn't pick up on it then. The, I just get a feeling that she would have been able to give a better response than the one that she gave when when Wanda asked her, "What
So
are you
you think
doing
that she would
here?
have been
Who are
quicker?
you?" I feel like she would have. I feel like she would have.
Possibly.
I feel like
An-
she would
another one I got is that maybe like seeing the beekeeper with the sword logo might be
have.
her
Mhm.
subconscious saying that sword has been
Anything with that.
infiltrated by
Yeah.
AIM, kind of like how Hydra infiltrated Shield.
Mm,
Levels.
stop that. Don't do that.
Bloop, 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 bloop.
Mm-mm.
Get up on those levels.
No, I don't like that.
Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe AIM has been infiltrated by
Traded by
Sword.
sword. Well, then that would
Maybe.
be a good thing.
Because she seems to have a problem with Sword,
Yeah.
not with anything else. So what that
Well,
is, so for
that's
the
because
beekeeper
sword
to have the
sword
sword on the
the sword logo keeps popping up in her perfect utopia,
right,
and it's
but
not
that
something that she created.
right, but I think that that's my point. So seeing the beekeeper, let's go with the theory that that is AIM. I think
Mhm.
that's a really good theory.
Mm.
Going with that theory, AIM should be there, right? Because AIM wants her doing exactly what the fuck she's
Yeah,
doing.
AIM
Mhm.
wants powerful people.
Mhm.
Exactly. So if AIM is there doing exactly what she wants them to be doing and what they want her to be doing, and
Mhm.
that beekeeper turns around and has the sword logo, I think and she's just like, no, she wouldn't be affected by seeing the beekeeper. To your point, it's the sword logo that throws her off.
Mm.
Maybe that was some sword has infiltrated AIM, i.e., AIM has given me all of these people in this space to do this thing, and now Geraldine is
That would
here.
also make sense, because
Mhm.
even at the end of Iron Man 3's, AIM is not really like, it's revealed to be this evil thing, but all of the evil stuff came from what's his name, ended up being Fing Fang Foom,
Mhm,
um, Guy Pearce's character.
mhm, mhm,
But at the same time, like AIM is one of those things that's changed leadership so many times over the years. Somebody else could be the supreme scientist at AIM currently.
mhm.
Not to mention, I feel like after the events of Endgame, someone from Sword probably came to her or watched footage of what happened with the fight with Thanos and
Mhm.
realized how overly powerful she is, because she literally could have killed Thanos on her own.
Mhm.
Everything else didn't have to happen. She had that shit in the bag.
Yeah.
But
Mhm,
she had also been gone for 5 years because she was blipped away.
Slipped away.
mhm.
I just think they did some tests on her and saw that she was real close to that mental break and
Yeah.
was like, "Girl, let's get you some help." And she was like, "No, no, 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 no," because also, where she comes from and how she was created.
I feel like
Why would you
someone
want that
someone
anymore?
wants to help her, but there's also someone behind the scenes like, well, let's see how far we can go and see what we can push her to
Get
do.
out of
Like
her.
if
Yeah,
her reality warping powers can be made real.
yeah,
Mhm.
Because in essence, she carries the power of an Infinity Stone, not unlike Captain Marvel.
right.
Right.
And
It's
we
so
all see how
good.
powerful Captain Marvel is.
Marvelous.
Yeah.
It is a lot to unpack,
And we're
which
only
I
three
think
episodes in.
I know,
right,
right?
which listen, I'm gonna put this out there, and it might be a controversial opinion, but 3 episodes into this, as opposed to the last show that Disney Plus gave us that we all loved in The Mandalorian, I think that this show is, and I love The
Well,
Mandalorian.
you have to take into account that this is only like 23 minutes, whereas The Mandalorian varied between like 28 minutes and 48 minutes and up to an hour. So they were a lot more free form with the time on
Well,
Mandalorian.
they were a lot more freeform, but the point that I was going to make, even outside of the time, was how you left each episode. I think with the Mandalorian, you had an idea of where you were going, and as the Star Wars nerds that we are, we were just waiting to see what was going to be the next thing that we saw, right? Like, well, who's going to be the next cameo? Where's going to be the next place they go? That type of thing. Um,
I'm still bugging out over Luke Skywalker. So
listen, the
spoilers
whole
if you
world is
haven't
still
seen.
the
Yeah,
whole world is still bugging out over that. But I think that it created a story in which you as a viewer were much more interested in where they were going versus the actual story. And I think that what I love about how WandaVision is being done, the story is incredibly compelling and intriguing because there's so many unknowns, and even with, like, when they peel layers, they're not peeling back like a whole layer of that onion. They're just peeling a little piece, and then I guess next week they'll peel a little bit more of that same piece of onion, whereas with the Mandalorian it was like every week a section was coming off.
yeah.
It was very
Well,
clear
the
cut
with the
direction they were
Mandalorian,
going.
it's like, oh well, here's where we're starting. Here's what we need to get, and every episode is like a little bit more into that. It's like a timeline. Like, oh, we're starting here,
Yes.
or we're getting here. There's not much. There's a couple of like filler episodes where it's like, oh well, we need to get the Mandalorian back to this planet for some reason, so he'll stop and see his buddies on Tatooine or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep. And I feel like with this, that's not the case at all. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think, I mean, on top of the fact that it's a limited series, there's not going to be filler. They
Yeah,
can't
that's the
be
big
filler.
thing. This
Yeah.
is this is essentially them saying we don't want to have to squeeze this into 2 to 2.5 hours. We want to take our time with this, and we want to develop this character. That way, we're making more money by keeping people subscribed to Disney Plus for about three
Hmm.
months,
Hmm.
and the character gets the justice they deserve because these characters weren't really highlighted in the movies that much,
But
and they're
also,
interesting as fuck.
right, yeah. But also, we're starting a new phase and we need to,
Yeah,
get you introduced to the big boys that will be big players in this new phase.
yeah, and I like that. I like that they're
Me
saying,
too.
oh,
Yeah.
we can start characters as shows and then
Hmm.
get them to movies. Not everybody needs a trilogy.
Right.
Yeah, it's an incredibly exciting time to be a Marvel fan.
It's hella ambitious on Disney Marvel to do this as well.
It's
Hmm.
so
But it's
ambitious.
paying off.
It is. People won't stop talking about it, and I'm happy because the show is good so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we don't have any idea yet how this is going to tie in to the other shows that are coming. I
Yeah.
have to believe that there will be some minute tie-in to Falcon and Winter Soldier, and there's no way that we're doing all of this magic and alter in like altered timelines and everything else, and there's not going to be an implication of it in Loki. I don't see that happening.
That's the other thing that I'm very interested in. I'm more interested in, like, I'm interested in Falcon and Winter Soldier because I love Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I want to see, they bring back Baron Zemo, and I'm interested in that because I
It's
enjoy the
your fucking
characters.
face. We're doing it.
Yeah, but I'm more
Listen,
interested in
I'm
Loki.
interested in everything except Anthony fucking Mackie, but continue.
Yeah, I'm interested in Loki because of the time travel stuff and the fact that it is not
Mhm.
the Loki that we saw die at the beginning
Yeah.
of Infinity War.
No, it's the
It's
snarky
2012 Loki,
Mhm.
who's still kind of pissed off and hasn't really reconciled with his brother yet, Loki.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm interested to see where that goes, and if Loki then pops up in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Mhm.
And I'm also interested to see where this ends, because we know it directly rolls into Doctor Strange too.
Yeah. Oof, 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 oof.
Listen, I am going to be on one the whole time we talk about Doctor Strange, but I think you guys were already expecting that. Might be
Well,
on
that's not going
screen.
to be a movie. That's just going to be a movie.
Yeah, that's a
We
movie,
can I know this,
but it'll be something that we
we can
cover as well.
probably
Yeah.
talk about, 3 or 4 episodes worth of that movie.
Matter.
If
No?
all the rumors and casting are
That's
true, hell
true.
yeah.
Yeah. Right. It is jam packed.
I say, do you remember when we were getting ready to do Endgame? That seems like so long ago. But like every week for like a month, we found a way to talk about Endgame before we actually did the Endgame episode. So I just want that same love for my Doctor Strange. All right. Well, with that, guys, we want to just ask you to tell us what you think. If you're watching this, definitely comment below. If you're listening to the podcast, you guys can reach us through our normal means of communication, i.e., Instagram, Twitter. Our handle on both is at Concentrated Pod. You can send us an email to concentratedpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 301-531-4393. Again, that's 301-531-4393. Let us know what you think. Give us your conspiracies because we want to hear them. Maybe you guys are thinking about something that we haven't even covered. And we'd love to chew on that, especially Manira, because Manira is the queen of conspiracies. So make sure you put those down for us. Also, if you are watching this on YouTube, like the video, subscribe. We talk about all of the MCU shows and MCU stuff in general, as well as a bunch of other stuff. So you should probably just subscribe and
Yeah, and share it
click
with your friends.
share it with your friends. Click the notification button so you know when we got new videos coming out. And same thing with the podcast. If you're listening to this on a podcast, just subscribe. You'll get an alert, and then you'll always know what we're talking about, and you can contribute to it. So, with that, guys, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We'll be back next week as we break down and digest episode 4.
Yep.
Bye, guys.
Peace.
Bye.